Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that was a tough shot this time.
He doesn't want to fight.
No, ref's got to call that.
Another episode of Trash Talk. With me, as always, is TJ O'Connor. Tonight we have Ben Locken. Trash Talk is brought to you again by Valhalla Combat Sports, Ink Strings Tattoo out of New Brighton, Minnesota, The Fighters, and TJ's mom. Tonight we're doing another edition of Inside the Trash Can with Ben Locken, and I just want to start it off. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. A little full from the holidays, but doing good.
Yeah, that's always good, and then another reason to get back into the gym and continue training and burn off all those extra calories.
Oh,
Definitely.
for sure.
Man, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, Ben. This is one I was really excited for when Damien mentioned that we had a chance to finally sit down and talk with you. I know it was originally going to happen on a day I couldn't make it, so when it got postponed, I was ecstatic.
That was actually my fault. I gave you the wrong day. It was originally for today. I just.
Well, that makes it even funny.
There was a miscommunication of over communication.
No, that's even funnier now because like that even told the story because like I said I was under the assumption that I was going to miss out last time, but no, I really appreciate it. Every time we talk to fighters, you're the one common X factor that always comes up. So I'm really excited you took the time to speak with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm familiar with your MMA background. You were a few years older than me at Champlain Park High School, and that was my first encounter with you. Actually, I came in the workouts, the weightlifting program for the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, that went on during the summer for the football players. I loved football back in the day, and I wanted to be a really good football player. So I was there every single day, and you were usually the guy that was running it, and the coaches were coming to you asking you about the workouts and stuff like that. That's something that I always thought was pretty cool. And then now you're making the transition into coaching and training in MMA. I mean, was that the start for you? Way back in high school, even?
Yeah. So kind of, God, that seems so long ago. But yeah, it kind of started with football going into my freshman year, the summer before freshman year. Started doing the strength and conditioning over there at Champlain Park, and then just loved doing it and fell in love with it. And by the time I was going into my senior year, I kind of helped run it, and one of the captains of running it. I wasn't a elected captain, but I helped run and do some of the workouts for positions and the defense and things like that with some of the other big name guys that were there at the time in our class. But yeah, started, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So when it started in high school, because I didn't actually know that you weren't a captain. All the guys that I was teammates with on the freshman team thought you were a captain.
Yeah.
Because, dude, you're just a natural leader then. I mean, that's something that can't be voted on, can't be decided by certain coaches and everything. Like, you were just always a natural leader, and that's something that, we've always admired. And you were one of the guys that I looked up to as a freshman. When we look at guys that are doing good, I don't know, as seniors, as juniors, on the varsity level, like we all looked at you, especially the coaches would always give you so much praise. Like you were one of those guys that worked your butt off every single day, and anything that you got out of your performances was something that you worked for, and that was something that I always actually admired, and it was that something that translated, because I seen this this was a recent post from you on Facebook where you actually got up to 200 pounds at a point in time. Was that before MMA? And because of all the training and stuff that you did in high school, was that kind of like, dude, I used to be in such good shape. Did you want to turn it around? And did you end up finding MMA because you wanted to turn it around, or did you want to turn it around and you knew MMA was the direction you wanted to go?
So That's kind of a long story. So
Yeah.
the idea behind that post is that was actually at the start of my MMA. It was after one of my losses, and kind of just like what I could see, like as far as food goes, I ate it because I kind
Yeah.
of full. Kind of going after that first loss, you got to deal with things, and I ate my feelings,
Yeah.
if you will. And then I was like, what am I doing? I got to get healthier. That was actually more of the kick with that post earlier, like on Facebook or Instagram, like you were saying. That was
Yeah.
more of the kickstart into the nutritional piece for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
I accidentally kind of found MMA post high school. I went to go search around for gyms to kind of get, I loved working out, loved fitness. I wasn't a huge CrossFitter at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so I found a gym called API, and two of the instructors, Caitlin Young and Ryan Murray, were instructors there. So Caitlin,
I know where this is going.
yeah, and Caitlin was actually like, hey, have you ever given this a shot? Like, you ever want to train MMA? And she actually held my very first boxing, rounds for me. And I was like, okay, I'll get into this. And then Ryan started teaching me how to kick a little bit, which I was horrible at first. It was funny. I wish we would have taken a video back then. But that's kind of how the MMA side of things had started. I didn't wrestle in high school. It was just football, lifting, baseball. And then after a couple of years of doing that with them, I ended up with my first fight about 9 months later. And then between the MMA side of things with Ryan and Caitlin and the gym I was at with the strength and conditioning, I was asked to be a drilling partner with Shirk. So
Okay.
I ended up becoming his strength and conditioning partner and like his drilling dummy, which I just sat and got beat on, like not beat on, but he just wrenched me around, pressing me up. But I learned a lot as far as like drilling and how to train from just being a dummy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the kickstart and the avenue to go into MMA.
You just mentioned some of the biggest names in Minnesota MMA, and Ryan being one of the better coaches around, I mean, dude, so those were your first instructors and first intro to MMA. And man, honestly, I'm going to continue to dig deeper and get the answers to the questions that I want to get. But I'm like, I think I see how everything kind of played a factor into doing what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Did you when you first started off doing MMA and training with those guys, did you expect to have as much success as you did?
Honestly, not really. Like at first I was like, I just want to fight and focus on me and try to get the fighting thing. And just even with football, and I have a hard time. Like I always tell, like if you're holding a mirror, like you have to have the mirror facing you when it's time to fight. And I've always had a kind of a hard time telling people no and turning the mirror to myself. I've always kind of turned it towards other people.
Yeah.
So at first I tried to go a little bit more kind of selfishly towards the fighting, and it's just, I had some success, some lows, some bads, learned a lot in a quick, short career, and I'm not done or anything. We'll see if the itch isn't in the back there. It still might happen.
Oh
You
yeah.
never know. I'm never gonna say never. But no, I just found, and kind of like you had mentioned earlier, just with the football stuff, even though I'm there as an athlete, I'm still trying to kind of lead and guide some of the younger guys as far as how to lift, how to do this, when to rest. It's like we're here to work and put the time in. So I've always kind of had the ability to kind of turn the mirror towards my teammates or towards now my athletes.
Yeah.
I'm not so self-focused, so that, and you have to be when it comes to fighting, because if you're not, it's when crap go wrong in a hurry when you're not fully focused on you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, me and TJ have spoke on this countless times, and TJ could probably elaborate a little bit more, but we love the fact that when former fighters or even current fighters decide to start coaching and start working with fighters, there's an aspect of the game that you get to see. And then even the coaches that have been in the game for a long time, you know, that they've got to see, because they have so many fighters competing, dealing with so many other promoters and matchmakers, and having to deal with guys and possibly even negotiating your own fights, telling the promoters like, hey, talk to my manager, and then those managers ignoring them and still trying to talk with you and things like that. I mean, that's something that I believe like comes from firsthand experience. You know, I mean, you can be told a million times about something, but once you see it firsthand, you know exactly how to develop it. And one of the things with fighters is recognizing patterns, you know, whether it's in the fight or it's in the coaching, you know, seeing guys that you've trained with take certain paths and countless other guys kind of follow, trying to do the same thing. It's like you have a little bit more of a better insight to offer your fighters or offer the guys that you're training with, you know, so it's advice that can be trusted. And that's one of the things that we really appreciate when fighters start taking over in, I mean, commission, coaching, owning gyms, matchmaking, managing, all those things, you know, it's better insight.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And a fighter should be focusing on training and you know, he's getting ready for a fight. He shouldn't be like, oh, I got to deal with this contract. I got to deal with that. And
yeah.
like, dude, you better be focusing on the dude that wants to punch you in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
No, exactly. And you were mentioning, you know, fighting is a very selfish. It's a very selfish sport. When it comes into it, knowing that you have to put the work in, and coaching is almost the exact opposite of that. It's so selfless. You have to put so much time and energy into someone else who, especially the closer you get to fighting, is eating less, is getting more cranky, and you know you're the one pushing them as far as strength and condition. And we all know cardio makes it humbles everybody. So I mean, your transition from fighting to coaching, I feel like has been, if not the most smooth, as smooth as it gets. Just because I feel like you were always one of those guys where you'd see you in guys' corners, always willing to put the work in. When did you make the decision to, you know, fully invest and become a coach rather than just that teammate that's willing to help you out?
I don't know if there's an actual like pinpoint of it. It's kind of overall like, okay, I'm enjoying this aspect of the coin versus that aspect of the coin. And kind of the more fights you corner, the more, you know, you help holding pads, the more all of a sudden you're doing grappling. And now you're starting to teach MMA classes and, you know, teach what it just adding a little bit more, just like as a fighter, you know, as you get better skilled, the more fight camps you do, or the more time you're training, you know, the better skilled, the more weapons you have. It's the same thing kind of on my end is the more times I would corner people or help people, I would add a little bit more. And I was also asking my coaches, like, well, what are you looking for from your fighters? Or how do you address your fighters when they do this? Or, you know, how do you look at film and kind of dissect film? And I'm actually lucky, like right now, Chris Sykon over at the Celery owns a gym. He's got like a huge ability to watch something, see tendencies, implement game plans. And, you know, he can really break down and get a strategy going, kind of like a really strategical chess match. Like, well, okay, here's the game plan, but what if this happens? Like he's got a good avenue for all of it. So I'm actually lucky enough to kind of be mentored under him, and we kind of go over things, and he's like, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And, you know, I can pick his brain apart. And, you know, back when I started, I had Ryan and Caitlin to do that with. I had Nat McIntyre to do that with. I had Tom Schmitty to do it with, or Schmitz, sorry.
Yeah.
So I've always been like, you know, surrounded
The best
coaches with who have real good insight.
Yeah.
And I've loved that aspect of it. And so even though I'm training as a fighter for a fight, you know, years ago, it's like, okay, well, what about this side of the coin? Kind of over the years of getting more fights, kind of like, okay, the back end, you know, 50 trees down the forest, like how do you go about doing that? So I always had the end in mind, even though I'm just starting on the end in mind, if that makes sense.
Dude, I love what you just said. You know, honestly, dude, it sounds like a perfected version of like the mentors that I've had in my life where like I knew I knew that I was going to end up cornering some of my teammates, you know? So I went online, I started looking up how to tape hands, watched all these YouTube videos, watch Roger Mayweather taping hands, watch how you tape
Yeah.
boxing hands, how you tape for Muay Thai, how you tape for MMA, how some guys just tape their wrists and their thumb and stuff like that. I just became obsessed with taping hands because I knew I was going to corner.
Yo.
Now, pretty much what you just explained to me is that you started just taking in all aspects of it, you know, knowing that you're probably going to end up working with these guys. You get trusted in the corner one time. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want to ever mess this up again. I want to do, or even if you did mess up the first time, I want to be better the next time. Dude, that's it. That's admirable. Oh man,
Yeah.
I love that. So I mean, so when you started doing all that, is that when you first started making the transition into knowing the nutrition things as well? Because I mean, we did mention earlier about you getting up to 200 and something pounds, but you fought at 145 pounds at a point in time.
Yeah, so that was my biggest weight jump. And I actually reached out to a nutritionist to get me down from, because I was like, all right, 205 at 5'6". This is not good. Something's got to change here. Especially, you know, fighting at 155, and I gave a shot at 145. So I was like, okay, I got to get somebody, you know, at the time, professional to kind of help me. And again, when I reached out to him, this was years ago, 7-8 years ago now. He was on a little bit smaller scale, if you will, or just starting out. I think he had only a couple fighters on his list. But again, at that time, I'm asking him, okay, well, why am I eating this, or why am I doing this, or why are you giving me this? And he wasn't quite as busy as he is now. So I was able to kind of get, you know, I was texting him, talking to him, picking his brain apart, learning from him. And then actually a year ago now in July, he's holding certification. So I went and got, you know, official certification so I can actually like rep his name now. And that's George Lockhart.
Okay, hell yeah.
Dan Leaf. So I work with those guys. I'm in contact with those guys a lot. So again, I got good guys around me to kind of start learning from and get mentored from. And at that certification, I met a bunch of other, you know, nutrition guys and former fighters who are kind of on the same path as me. John Poppy is one of them. I'm texting him all the time, and he's helping me all the time, and little tips and tricks here and there. So, like, tip of the iceberg. I know that's real cliche and whatever, but
Yeah.
each opportunity to learn and gain something new not only helps me, but helps my fighters as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful how you're taking that mindset that allowed you to become high level at your craft, and now you're passing it off onto others and you know, transition it over to the nutrition side. Because as far as, you know, I mean, there's no one who comes higher recommended in the Twin Cities area. We talk to the top fighters, and your name gets brought up more than anybody. And I'm not saying that just because you're on. I mean, you're
true.
We talk to fighters. We ask them who they want to thank, who they want to shout out, and Ben Locken comes up.
The mad scientist Ben Locken.
Yeah, the mad scientist. I mean,
might have to roll with that nickname.
Yeah.
They all know. And I mean, I was more excited to get you on. Just before we wrap it up tonight, is there anybody that you want to shout out? Anybody that's been there for you? You know, who do you want to give a platform to?
I mean, I've named a bunch of people already.
Yeah.
So everybody I've named, I'm not gonna name them all because I'm gonna forget somebody. And then Katie, my wife, she lets me like, oh, I got fight weekend this weekend, and then the next weekend and doing this, and with my 1-year-old son, she does a really good job of taking care of him. And then we also got a baby due in January, so we're going to be even busier, and having that support crew or that support system from the home front makes all the difference in the world. And I truly believe, like, if you don't have a happy home, it's going to reflect elsewhere. And the reason I can do what I do, and I'm you know, pretty good at what I'm doing, is because the home front is very supported as far as Katie goes. So if there's any waves there or unsteadiness there, then it's going to reflect. So
Oh,
I got a solid home front.
Dude, that's great to hear, and it's great to hear that she has as much support as you. Because out of being one of the guys that support all these fighters, and I mean, help all of them out with their nutrition and training and holding pads and stuff, it's like there's not a job in this game that you haven't had or do already, which is amazing. And then you being able to do that is so much easier when you know you have that support behind you at home, dude. And you sounds like you got an amazing woman behind you. And also, congratulations on the new baby.
definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby girl on her way.
Oh man, dude, I don't know how you and TJ do it. I support all the families, but man, I have nightmares sometimes thinking about when I have a kid, because oh man, I'm not ready.
I don't think you ever really are until they're here.
Yeah. There's no getting ready. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you get
no.
that phone call, and you're like, well, I better start getting ready.
Yeah. I better figure this out and figure it out in 8 months.
Oh man, yeah, dude. Ben, we're gonna have to have you back on the show again.
Yeah.
I feel like we only just scratched the surface in this interview, and man, I can't wait to have you back on again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it. And we can, anytime you want to have me on, kind of hit an overview. You can go MMA, we can go strength and conditioning, nutrition, thoughts on whatever. I mean, you just give me a day and I'll be ready to go and sign up and get another interview under your belt.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Appreciate the support from the fighters. Please remember to like and subscribe to Trash Talk with Damian and TJ. I mean, don't be a coward. I mean, this is if you're real, this is what you're gonna do. So
Are you listening? Damn.